Hi and welcome back to my Sticks and Stones lyric book adventure. So I thought I would give you a little bit of inside information, a little bit of the backstory behind some of the songs that are going to be in the book. Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention the namesake of the band Little Angels and our song She's a Little Angel, which of course went on the Big Bad EP and ended up on some formats of the first album, Don't Pray For Me. Now, it is a significant song. It was one of those breakthrough moments for us. It's quite an interesting story though, because I remember that we'd lived with a lot of songs like Better Than the Rest and Pleasure Pyre and these sorts of tunes for a long time. We were touring and doing lots and lots of gigs up and down the country, playing the same songs for a long time, and we didn't often find a way of shoehorning new tunes in. So I can remember the guy that was managing us at the time said to us, "Oh, you need some new music." And it was around about the time that we'd fallen in love completely with Aerosmith and their album Permanent Vacation. And even though that record had been out a little while, because we'd copped it the very first time it came out. I remember we heard that record for the first time in Shades Records in London, and when we were playing at the Marquee Club, I forget who we were opening for, but we were opening for somebody, and I remember we all went down to Shades Records, and it was playing on the stereo in the shop, and I remember going up to the counter to the guy and said, "Oh my God, who's this?" And he looked at me like I was some sort of idiot. He said, "Well, it's Aerosmith." And it was Dude Looks Like a Lady, and we became massively influenced by that record and that song. And really, if the truth be known, She's a Little Angel is Dude Looks Like a Lady rewritten. That's the honest truth. We went back to our rehearsal place, and we used to rehearse. It's strange with Little Angels because we used to rehearse in a number of places. We used to rehearse in I think it was called the Talbot Hotel, which was in Scarborough, on Huntress Row, I think. And there was a Scottish guy, I think I've mentioned this guy before, there was a Scottish guy who used to run it, who really liked us being there, and he was really helpful to us. And sometimes we rehearsed at the Bowling Green Lane, I think it was the Cricket Club or the Scout Hut in Hummonby, which is a village that me and Mark Plunkett lived in at the time. Or we used to rehearse in the Stephen Joseph Theatre in the Round occasionally as well. And we used to sort of flip between those places. And my bright memory of this song being written was written in the Bowling Green Lane Scout Hut. And I mean, we used to make such a racket, and it was not that far from a lot of residential places, but we never got any complaints really. I think people were just kind of, I don't know, a lot more willing to just sort of put up with it than perhaps people would be today. I don't think we would get away with it today. But anyway, we used to rehearse there a lot, and I can remember it coming together in that space, working on the idea of it. And I remember Bruce coming in, and he had that fantastic riff. And it really is a fantastic. I didn't know, and I didn't for many years know how great that was as a piece of writing from a guitar point of view. Such a fantastic idea, I mean, it's really simple, but that's the genius of it. A great guitar riff should be simple. I mean, you think about all the great ones, Smoke on the Water or any of those, Jumping Jack Flash, any of these simple riffs. They have to be simple, they have to be memorable. And Bruce had that innate ability to come up with those simple riffs, So really that was the linchpin, if you like, of the whole thing. And I remember thinking to myself, well, look, we ought to have a song called something with Little Angels in the title. And I know that at the same time, we'd all got a little bit obsessed with Madonna, like a Virgin album, which had been out a few years, but we all loved that record. We were all pop kids, really. That's why we like Bon Jovi. We loved we loved rock. I mean, that was our thing. But I think we all had a great appreciation of great pop music. We were all fans of Duran Duran, for instance. I don't know that Jim was influenced by quite a lot of the modern dance music, OMD, things like that, and that's what gave him his edge in a way, that he had a great understanding of sequencing and things like that, So that whole thing with the sequence for She's a Little Angel, which, if my recollection is correct, that happened in the studio when we got in the studio, or when we were starting to rehearse for the studio production a couple of years later. That sequence happened then. It wasn't to my recollection of immediately there from the off. So we put the song together as a kind of rock and roll tune. And I think those two things combined, the sort of love of Madonna and Aerosmith, sort of somehow amalgamated, because the lyric is about a sort of, I don't know, not a very accurate observation of a sort of Hollywood starlet. And in my mind, it was kind of like personified by Madonna, if you like. So the protagonist in that story is really supposed to be Madonna. Because I think at the time there was this whole thing about her and Sean Penn splitting up and their infidelity with each other and all this sort of thing, and the fact that it had been revealed, you know, obviously her story is a fantastic story of achievement actually, and survival, that she'd come from middle America and come to I think New York first or LA, but anyway, had sort of had to fight her way through the system. And you know, that's determined, isn't it? But I think it was sold in the newspapers as if she was some kind of like, you know, second-rate singer and blah, blah, blah. But of course she was a superstar. So there was this sort of combination of these elements. And I actually really like the words. I mean, it is a story. I think it was one of the very first story songs I kind of wrote, really. And again, not my finest moment. I don't think it's fantastic, but it does paint a picture. And it was a kind of realization to me at the time that that's the sort of thing I wanted to do, because up until that point I've been writing almost like abstract words, really, abstract lyrics. I mean, Better Than the Rest, even though that has a kind of trail as an example, it wasn't a story as such. It was kind of just some good sounding words in lots of ways, you know. So yeah, and of course the song went on to be a pretty big success for us. It was we performed on Top of the Pops playing that song. That was the first time we ever performed on Top of the Pops, and the recording of it was exciting. You know, and of course it ended up on the Big Bad EP as the key song. Yeah, I guess the rest is history.